Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is Pool Chapter 49. This one is titled Shota's Background. Just before we start, the information on Aizawa's background has been taken from the BNHA Vigilantes. None of this is mentioned in the manga. There is a little bit that's possibly touched on in the manga, but all of this is still understood to be canon, so just bear that in mind. Why does he do this to me? Your inner voice screamed, the turmoil in your heart making you turn around and head for the door before you could say anything stupid in reply. Suddenly a binding cloth snagged your wrist and yanked you backwards, making you stumble back and spin to try and catch yourself from falling, but thankfully Aizawa was right there to break your fall. As you fell against his chest, he put an arm around you to steady you, and you looked up into his face. Are you not going to reply my comment? He asked in a very matter-of-fact voice. I'm trying not to say anything that would get me in trouble, you replied. How so? You're so hot and cold, Aizawa. Why do I feel like everything is still on your terms? I don't want to get hurt, he said softly. Before Aizawa could reply, he heard footsteps approaching the staff room and so let your wrist go with his cloth and stepped back, giving you a longing look before turning away. You okay to take the track class this afternoon? He asked while looking away, changing subjects so that it wouldn't look awkward when the next person entered the room. Yeah, that's fine, you replied, noticing what he had done just as Midnight, another teacher in the school, walked in. Good. He headed for the door, not even acknowledging Midnight as she sauntered past and gave him a smiling greeting. You watched him go and said a polite hello to Midnight before walking to your desk and sitting down to collect yourself for a few seconds. Confusing, aren't they? Midnight said candidly as she pulled her drawer open and grabbed her makeup bag out. I'm sorry? You asked, looking up at her. Men. So hot and cold. Aizawa is no exception. Did she hear our conversation? You thought as you looked at her and tried to keep a blank face. But, she sighed, he does have his reasons for being the way he is. He's had a bit of a tough time. Your interest piqued and you shifted your body in the chair towards her a little, showing your interest. I want to ask what she's talking about, but I don't want to seem too nosy or overtly interested, you thought, sucking your cheek in between your teeth and biting down on it. Midnight could feel your eagerness and smirked as she put her makeup brush down and then walked over to your desk and leaned down on it, ready to divulge some juicy gossip. You leaned in a little, more than eager to hear what she had to say. I know this firsthand, Midnight stated. This happened during high school, but the after effects seem to have haunted Shota ever since. Your eyes widened when you heard how potentially serious this little piece of information could be, and waited for her to continue. Back in high school, she regaled, Shota, Hazashi and Oboro were classmates and friends. I too was in the same class as they, and can vouch for Oboro. He was kinda cute. She stared off for a second or two with a soft look in her eye, before continuing. Oboro and Hazashi were the loud ones, who adopted Aizawa, let's be honest here. You cracked a smile and nodded. Yeah, that makes sense. There was an incident during hero work studies where Oboro lost his life when a building collapsed on him. Shota was affected the most, she said, the sorrow on her face showing clearly. Oh, I'm so sorry, you said sadly. That makes sense now. That's not all of it, she added. Since then, Shota has found out that his friend's body was stolen by a particularly strong villain group and turned into a Nomu. Oh my god, you gasped, covering your face with your hands. I've heard of Nomus from the news, but I've never seen any in real life. It kills him inside that he can't save his friend, she said softly, continuing on like she hadn't heard you. He looks morose, but deep down he really cares a lot, and I think that's why he's too afraid to let anyone in again, in case he loses them. Your eyes welled with tears, and you looked away to compose yourself. I didn't tell you any of this though, okay? She said as she straightened and walked back to her desk, picking up her makeup brush again. But just keep it in mind. Thank you for telling me, you said to her. That explains a lot. I'll make sure not to say anything that could trigger him. Anyone who manages to get him to open up again is gonna be on a pedestal, Midnight commented as she bent down to the mirror to apply her makeup. He's been particularly closed off to relationships for years. You nodded and stood up. Well, I don't know about relationships, but I'll do my best not to upset him. you said, trying not to step into the trap that she was setting for you. She nodded and watched you leave. Good luck, Yin. I know if anyone can get him to open up again, it's you. I'm just giving you the background that you need to be able to work your magic. Things seemed to be a little awkward between you and Aizawa in class, for different reasons. Aizawa just wanted to touch you, hold you, and try to make things better, considering what you had said to him earlier. And you just wanted to hold him and tell him he didn't need to rush anything, now that you knew a little bit more about his background. I'll attend your track lesson, Aizawa said to you before you left the classroom a little earlier than the outdoor lesson had been planned for. I need to write a few reports on your teaching style and hand them to Nezu. Oh, fun, you deadpanned internally. Okay, that's fine, you replied with a forced smile, walking away and out the door so that you could get set up for the track class while the students changed. Aizawa watched you leave. Should I have invited her to dinner? He wondered. I'd like to get to know her a little more. Okay, line up, you called to the students once everyone was out on the track. Today we'll be doing sprint training for endurance. I've set up markers along the track so that you know where to jog and where to sprint. Sprint at the blue markers and then slow to a jog at the red markers. Any questions? No, miss, the class chorused together. Okay, all set, you called, waiting for the students to get themselves in a start position. Go! And there ends chapter 49. Stay tuned for chapter 50 tomorrow.